Flosstube friends. This is Christy. I'm the crosshatch quilter. I'm here to talk to you about my stitching today. It has been a long while since I have filmed last, but today is December 11th and this is Flosstube number 10. I hope that this video finds you well. You've had time to stitch and sew all the things, and you're healthy and happy, and you're enjoying this holiday season that we're in. I have just been so busy, and yesterday Haley and I have something super exciting to celebrate. We are finished with school for the year 2020. Oh my goodness, it feels so good, and it was like running a marathon the last couple weeks to try and get everything done and wrapped up and turned in, and we're just so excited to have a little bit of a break. So that I just feel so much better. And I've been busy making project bags, and just between all the things of decorating and sewing and stitching, I've really enjoyed this season so far, and I'm excited to get back here to talk to you about all of it. So let's get started. I have some previous finishes to share with you today, some new starts, of course, some whips, some happy mail, some haul, and a giveaway, and some quilts. So let's get started. The first thing that I have is a few previous finishes, and this first one is Kringle and Woolard by Plum Street Samplers. And I stitched it with all the called for threads, except I think I switched the dark with the light gray. I think I just switched those because the dark gray for the whole entire sheet was just getting everything lost, and you couldn't see the quilted stars, so I switched those out. I think that this was my very first piece that I did over one stitching on, and I stitched this a few years ago, probably 3, I don't remember, but I know that last December I refinished this. It was on sticky board and had some picks and bows, and I switched it out and I just laced it in the back, and I put it in a frame that I ordered from Amazon. But his mitten is over one stitching, and that was the very first time I had done over one. It's not perfect, but it looks pretty good, and I just love this one so much. He's, I think, one of my very favorite Christmas finishes. And then the next one is a series. I'm going to try not to jingle bells in your ear too loud in case you're wearing headphones. This is Merry One by Plum Street Samplers. It's just a Plum Street Sampler day. And I stitched this with all the called for threads. I love the muted colors. It kind of reminded me of Blackbird Designs colors, how they're just kind of muted and faded. And then I finished it with some Blackbird Designs fabric on the back, and some chenille and some jingle bells. This is filled with lizard litter. Since I finished these, now I use sawdust, and I like it much better, but I'm not changing these out. They'll just have to stay. They just get kind of heavy. Oh, sorry if you've got headphones on. They just kind of get a little bit floppy in the middle because they're so heavy. Lizard litter it weighs quite a bit. They're good for drums because it kind of keeps the drum sitting, instead of tipping over, sitting nice. But as far as like tuck pillows, sawdust is my new favorite. This one is Merry 2 by Plum Street Samplers. And I did, again, all the called for threads and jingle bells and some black gingham and a little bit of black chenille around the sides. And then my last one is Merry 3 by Plum Street Samplers. Stitched with all the called for threads. I love that cow. And some burgundy chenille, some black fig tree fabric on the back. Love, love, love them. So I have 2 new finishes since last time we spoke. And the first one is Feast of Friendship by Blackbird Designs. I was stitching this. It started out as a stitch along with Lori Holt of Be My Bonnet, and we were up camping, and I'd seen her start it in the summer, So then when we went camping in September, I brought mine along and I started mine. And here is my finish. This is stitched on 36 count Legacy by Picture This Plus with all the called for threads, except for I did shaker white for the middle of the bowl. I still need to put my initials in here. I was going to put my initials in with Lori, or her initial and my initial. We were going to put them in together, but unfortunately that trip never happened. My husband had gotten exposed to somebody, and so I didn't dare go and take anything to her. But it's been over 2 weeks now, and he's fine, and we never got anything. So, but if you're dealing with that, I am so sorry. It's been going rampant here where I live and in Utah. It's just been crazy. So this is Feast of Friendship by Blackbird Designs, and thank you to everyone that joined in with us on this sal. It was so much fun, and it truly made it just a special piece, and I will always remember 2020 is stitching Feast of Friendship with all of you. And then my next finish is with I Needle and Thread. Grateful, Thankful, Blessed. This is the one that I had seen Michelle Farm Girl start, and I just had to buy it, so I immediately pushed pause on her video and went and bought it. And I didn't think I was gonna be able to finish it this year. I had set it down and I hadn't worked on it all of November. I had picked up something else, which I'll show you here in a bit. But the last week of Thanksgiving, I got a wild hair, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finish that. And so I did, and I worked on it feverishly that entire week. And it was so fun to finish it the week of Thanksgiving. I finished it at midnight, like the night before Thanksgiving. I stitched this on 36 count Ren by Picture This Plus with all the called for threads, except for the two changes, or the one change that I made is I stitched all the words around the border with the roof color. So it was still a called for thread. It just wasn't in the words. And then, so originally the door color was what the words were going to be, but they just got lost on the linen. And then my people, their outfits don't look like everyone else's. And I kept pulling my threads out and looking at them because I was certain that I had made a mistake, but I just had a way different dye lot than what is called for. But as you can see, her dress is darker and the man's trousers are darker. So I just left it in. I'm not going to unpick it. I do wish that her dress was a little bit darker so it popped off of the linen a little bit better. But the thing I do love about it is that her flowers in her dress show up a little bit better. So that's good. But I love that. And I'm really glad that I persevered and finished it, because now I'll be able to get it framed and up on my wall for Thanksgiving next year. So those are my finishes. And next up, I'll have a few starts in my whips. I'm going to film my video in segments today because I found that it uploads faster on YouTube, but also I keep getting interrupted, and it's just been one thing after another, after another, after another. So if I look a little disheveled at this point, it's because I'm like so sweaty and glowing. Every time I film a Flosstube video, Gus, my dog, gets all hyper, and I think it's because he senses my excitement and nervousness. Also, he is not used to me doing my makeup and hair every day. Not that I did my, like, do we even know how to do our makeup and hair anymore? I don't know. But I do my makeup and hair once a month to do a Flosstube video because, I mean, why do that, right? Anyway, I've had the doorbell ring. I've had kids playing in my front yard. Gus has rang the bell and then ran around the house really super hyper, and then he stole a sock, and I need to stop my video and go help to claim that from him. He keeps barking and being super hyper and running in here. And then just now, when I was starting to show my whips and new starts, Santa just drove past. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but today's crazy. So I'm going to show you my new starts and my whips next for the third time. But the next thing that I worked on after I finished Feast of Friendship was I worked on the Equality Sampler for a bit. And I just love this. This is stitched on the Called for Everything with the Retreat kit that Brenda so kindly sent to me. So I got the bird, the eagle, pretty close to being finished. And I worked a little bit more on the border. He's so cute. I love him so much. So there's my progress on the Equality Sampler. I think that will be released next year to everyone. Hopefully. It's such a great sampler. I hope to have them all three on my wall one day. The Heritage Sampler, the Equality Sampler, and the Constellation. And then I worked on, okay, so last time I told you about Debbie's Stitching, who is on Instagram, and she makes these project bags. And this one I had bought from her. They're quilted, they're bound, and she hand stitches it down. It opens up with a magnetic clasp, and then it has pockets with clear front, and then also a pocket to hold your pattern on both sides and all of your goodies and your linen. This one came with a thread keep. I don't know what they're called, but I keep my threads on them. So there's the thread I'm using right now for this project. And then it has a magnet for your scissors or your needle. So then when you're done for the day, I just close it up so that it keeps it nice, and I just, whatever color I'm working on at the time, that's what I use. Sorry, I had yet another interruption. Okay, so I was showing you all the things that my project bag came with. This came with a scissor holder, scissor keeper. And it has a clasp, and you could really put a little tiny pair of scissors there and then one in the back. They're so cute. And then, and I'm not using them because I'm using silks on this project. So the next project that I kit and put in this project bag, I'll definitely use these. But it came with Santa floss drops. So cute. I love them. Okay, so what I have in this project bag is Yuletide Welcome by Plum Street Samplers. And this is a whip that I've had since last year. What I have accomplished and done this time was I worked on the border. I stitched in a Yuletide Welcome and did more of the outline on the grass. And then I had the house finished, but I started working on little doodads all around. And then I worked on this flower pot and flower up here. So that's what I've gotten done so far. I love it. This is stitched on 36 count buttercream by Lakeside Linens with all the called for threads. There's some overdyes and there's some NPI silks in there. And I can't wait to have that one done and up on my wall. Hopefully I'll have it finished by next year, but we will see. I hate to ever tell you plans because that usually seems like a surefire way for me to not get that said thing finished. And then I worked on I had a couple of new starts. I restarted Coming to America by With Thy Needle and Thread, and the very kind and sweet Christine with Hollis Hands Creates, she came to my rescue and sent me a piece of linen. It is the 40 count Vintage Country Mocha, and it's just a tiny start, but I am loving it so much better. It's hardly even worth showing you, but I love it. It's 40 count linen. It's very easy to stitch on. It's like butter, and it's very evenly, it's like an even weave Vintage Country Mocha. It's a very easy, if you're new to 40 count Vintage Country Mocha is a great one to start out with because it is just easy stitching. But I worked on the bird and then started on the flag and a little bit of the border. Thank you so much, Christine. I am loving it, and the contrast of the threads looks great on it. So I'm really excited to get that done. So maybe they will land by next year, Thanksgiving. And then my next start, this one is because of Heidi Cran. She is on Flosstube under the Stitching 1/2. And she showed her finish on Joyeux Noel. And I've had this kitted and in my stash for a few years, and I love, love, love it. And after seeing hers, that day I went and grabbed it and started it. I have no self-control. So I am stitching this on a mystery piece of linen. I know that it's by Seraphim Fabrics, but I do not know the name of it. I unfortunately lost the tag, and I've looked and looked and looked and I can't find it anywhere. But it's a really pretty color. And that is my little humble start. It has some Smyrna crosses, is that right? Smyrna crosses up here, the green. I love all the colors. When you kit this project, some of the colors are wild, and my initial reaction was to switch it because it was so crazy. Like this, I don't know if you can even see it, it's kind of blowing out, but this A right here, it is in, and I have all my threads kind of jumbled up, but it is in Autumn by Gentle Arts, and it starts out yellow, and then it goes clear to that burgundy color. Wild, huh? But I trust the Blackbird girls. They're absolute geniuses when it comes to color. That's what I love about them, is their color palette. So I'm just rolling with it. And as I stitch, I might pick the end of the yellow or the burgundy to start with that letter. So I might just, I'm not going to probably make it blotchy. You can see on the end of this A, it started to change right at the very, very end of the A. So does that make sense? But I love that. I'm anxious to get back to it, but I at least got a little start on it. I love all of the Blackbird designs samplers for the holidays, and they've got a new one coming out that is Christmas Sampler 4, and I have the first 3 charts already, so I'm excited to have the new one arrive. I've already got it pre-ordered. So then after that, I did a start on Thanksgiving Day with quite a few of you are joining me, and that is Hannah Tingey, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, 1823 by the Scarlett House. And I'm stitching mine on Vintage Luna 36 count by Lakeside Linens, and I got all my threads from and linen and kitted up chart from my friend Barb, and she's Indiana Barb on Instagram. And here is my flosses. They're all silks from the attic that I got from her. And my floss ring is from Nancy, who is So Cozy Stitching on Instagram and here on Flosstube. She even sent a cute little business card. But she is So Cozy Stitching. Go and check her out if you haven't watched her Flosstube. She does a lot of sewing, quilts, and cross stitch that are the same style as I do. So there is the darling floss ring that she sent. I love it. Thank you so much, Nancy. And I've been working on this ever since Thanksgiving Day, and I absolutely love it. I have a boo-boo that I made. So here is the Vintage Lakeside Linen, Vintage Luna. And on Thanksgiving Day, I started with one little flower over here in the corner, and a little bit of the border to get me over to some of the fun stuff. And then I stitched some of the flowers and this fun border that goes across. And then I was very mature and I stitched over one on Thanksgiving Day. I texted Laura and told her, I'm hashtag being very mature today. So then I finished the rest of the border this week. And sorry, I didn't iron this. But I've got the base of the border, not the flowers or the greenery, but just the border all matched up. And then I went down and I stitched this flower next. And my counting was off by 1. And I didn't know that at the time, but I started on the reindeer's antlers. And I don't know why, but I just had a feeling, you know what? If I'm off, then this is going to be bad because he stands right on this grass. So the last 2 days I have spent putting in the grass the bones of the project to make sure that I'm going to be on everything else. And sure enough, I started doing the outline of him this morning, and I'm 1 off. And instead of fudging it, because there's another deer, reindeer, whatever he is over here on this other side, I'm gonna have to unpick him because it will bother me. The flower's off 1 too, and I don't think I'll unpick it and redo it, but I'm gonna have to frog him out so that otherwise it'll bother me. But I am loving this. Quite a few people have joined me in on this Sal, and I'm just really, it's the perfect month of the year to stitch this sampler. My grandpa, my maternal grandfather and grandmother, they used to dress up like Mr. and Mrs. Claus, and they did that for all of my childhood that I can remember. I don't remember a year that they didn't do it. And they would go to churches, rest homes, hospitals. They were busy every day of the month of December. And we didn't see them very much in December's, but they would come visit us in their Mr. and Mrs. Claus outfits. And they'd always come to like my family party and my church party and dressed up and visit the children. So I'm going to put their names down here in place of Hannah Tingey, because this sampler reminds me so much of them. My grandfather used to take me deer hunting every fall, and he truly was just like Santa Claus in the flesh. So this sampler is going to be dedicated to them. All right, and the next piece that I worked on, so I was watching Olivia at Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, and she showed her Anniversaries of the Heart, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I haven't worked on that more. I started it as the Sal on January 1st with her, and then I just lost steam on it, and anything that was a have to stitch, does that make sense? I didn't want to stitch on anymore. I think that 2020 just added to my squirrelness, that I already naturally have that tendency because I have ADD. But I picked it back up and I have been working on it ever since. This is my morning stitch, or the first 30 minutes that I stitch a day, I work on Anniversaries of the Heart. And my goal is, before I go on to anything else each month, I'm going to finish a block in this. And then I'll move on to something else as my 30-minute stitch. But that was my plan all along in January, and I just didn't, oh, I have a loose thread here. I just didn't follow through. I saw a lot of squirrels this year. I have an infestation of them. So, and I didn't iron this, but the last time that I showed it, I had just barely started the pumpkin on October. So I had this stitched, and then the border, just the base of the border, not the flowers and everything. So I picked this back up, and in the month of November I have stitched October's block, and this is dedicated to Haley, because she was born in October. And so I stitched her name, and then I put in my Aunt Robin's initial right here. There is a little bit of over 1 right here, and I'm going to put H and R for Haley and Robin. Robin was my mom's sister, and I never met her. She passed away when she was 18. She got spinal meningitis and collapsed at a rodeo. She was barrel racing at a rodeo, and she unfortunately had spinal meningitis. So I never got to meet her, but she is born on my daughter's birthday, or my daughter is born on her birthday. They share the same birthday. And if I can find a picture of Robin, I will insert it right here. I was called Robin a lot growing up, and maybe you can see why. So then I moved on to December block, and I'm going, no, this is November block, sorry. So this is November block, and I have everything stitched except for the over 1 wording, because the family members that I'm going to put in this block, their last name is huge, and so I need to figure out the spacing on it so that I can get it correct and not have this great big, you know, section that's not centered. It will bother me if it isn't. So I need to figure out the stitching math on that. But I'm going to put my maternal great grandparents on this, and after I've stitched it up, I will share their story and the pictures of them. So then I moved on to December block. What a mess, sorry. This is a lot hard. I should just take it off of this board. Okay. So then I started on December block, and I'm going to put my grandparents that I just talked about for Hannah Tingey on this block. So I did start the over 1 down here, and I just haven't finished it, but everything else is finished, except there's one doodad, a little doodah snowflake down here, but I want to get their names in before I place it so that it fits. And then the last couple days I have been putting in the bones of the bonus block. And that is the very last block in the series. I, however, have more stitching to do. I will not be finished once the bonus block is done. So I've done January, and that has Gus in it. And then February will be my husband's block. I haven't stitched his over 1 name on it yet. Then another bonus block. And then this is March's block. And then, so it's only about half done. And then there's April right here. And then, of course, I really haven't done hardly anything in the middle section. And the way that I could cheat and get down to October was I started on May's block, and then I just started here and then over. So my goal this year is to finish a block a month at least before I move on to anything else. So at the beginning of each month I will pick this up and have this be my first 30-minute stitching a day. But I love this so much. I'm stitching this with all of the called for threads on 36 count Old Town Blend by R&R Fabrics. The only change that I have made color-wise is in January's block. I used Endive, which is called for in this chart, the whole, the entire pattern. But I used Endive for the top of the tree, and then I used Aged Pewter for the peacock, because my called for thread was like brown. So that is that block. I love this so much, and I am excited for Olivia. I think she's going to get hers done in December, and it's just so beautiful. There's a few more people that are going to start it in January, so I'll have stitching buddies to keep me company while I am working on mine. I think Brenda, the sampler stitcher, is going to start it on January 1st, as well as Nicola, who is Bumble Stitches here on Flosstube. And she has an awesome Flosstube. If you haven't checked her out, go ahead, and I will link her below. Go ahead and check her out. She is a sewer, a knitter, and a cross stitcher. She lives in the UK and has a lovely accent. So those are all of the things that I have worked on. I have one more finish that I can't show you because it is a secret stitch. I will show a picture of it next time, but it has been shipped off to its new owner, and it was such a fun thing to work on. I really, at the beginning of December, wasn't in the mood to stitch Christmas, and I'm still not as much as I usually am. This time of year, I'm stitch nothing but Christmas. But working on that surprise really got me in the Christmas mood. And so I've got a few more Christmas things that are in my whips, and also new starts that I would like to do in the future. All kitted up, ready to go. So I'll show those to you now. I think my goal going forward with some of my whips and samplers for next year, and I'll do a video for 2021 planning, is that I want to do a sampler and focus on it at a time, or a bigger project, not necessarily a sampler, but just a big stitch, or a BAP as a lot of you call them. And then mix in my Anniversaries of the Heart to make sure that I get that done. And then once I get Anniversaries of the Heart done, then I'll move on to a Hawk Run Hollow, most likely my Autumn Hawk Run Hollow. I'll make that my 30-minute stitch. So I want to work in more smalls because I was looking through all of my stash and my whips and what I want to see finished up on my wall, and I would love to have a sampler wall and a lot of tuck pillows that are smalls. So I just, for some reason, my personality doesn't automatically go towards a small. I just I like the big, huge projects, but I need to work those in so that I can have those done because I love them. I just don't do them as much. So this is a whip from last year, a Merry Christmas sampler by Lottie Daw, and I don't know why I didn't finish it last year, but apparently by the time December was over, I was done and didn't want to finish up any of my whips, and I just put everything away and I forget about them until the upcoming year. And it would be fun to have a small always going, whether that's, you know, for Christmas or fall or just year round, but that's what my goal is. But this is one of them that I want to get finished in the month of December. I'm stitching this on Winter Brew by R&R 36 count, and I changed almost all of the threads. They're mostly Victorian motto colors that were just close, and I love that so much. So that'll be a fun, and I want to finish it as a pillow and put it in a bowl full of Christmas baubles. So there's one Christmas whip. After I pulled all these out and started preparing for this video, I was like, why do I think that, and like I've said in the past, holiday whips don't bother me as much as having standing unfinished whips that are like samplers or my year-round stitching. Those bother me more, but once December's over or fall is over, I just tuck that whip away until I feel like stitching on it the following year. So I've got quite a few going here. My next one is a Prairie Schooler Santa, and this one I want to get finished this year as well. I'm stitching this on 32 count Summer Khaki, and there's where I'm at so far. I'm stitching this with all the called for DMC threads, 2/2. Love, love, love that. And I ordered some more Summer Khaki because I love these Prairie Schoolers on it. And the called for is, I don't know how to pronounce it, is it Davos? But you have to be a stab stitcher instead of stitching in hand. Or the threads just kind of go under that. So I gave all my Davos away, and then I think that this is my winner as far as a close matching fabric color. So if you're looking for something that you want to find for Prairie Schooler Santas, Summer Khaki is a good one. And I would like to one day have a prairie schooler tree, prairie schooler Santa tree. I just love Vonna Pfeiffer's Santa tree, and with all the beautiful cording around it. Sorry, I had to take a coughing break. I think all of the running around chasing Gus, answering the door, talking on a long video, it's given me a dry throat, so I will try to not cough in your ear. My next WIP is all bundled up by With Thy Needle and Thread, and I really love stitching snowmen because you can keep them up for longer than just the month of December. So that's my goal, is to have quite a few snowmen. I started this one last year on 36 count Winter's Brew. Doesn't look like much yet, but I've got that line of the snowman, and the bird has a body but no head. So I want to get that one finished this year or in January. I just love that. Brenda has a Halloween one that has a cat, and then also an Easter one with a bunny, and I'd like to stitch all three of them. I need to put these away as I go, or I'm going to have a huge mess. Sorry for the crinkling. And then my next project, this is Michelle Farm Girl's fault. She started working on this, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that, and I immediately went and paused the video and went and ordered the chart. I'm stitching it with all the called for threads on the called for linen, which is 36 count Legacy, and I haven't gotten very far. I just started it last year, I believe. Although what happened is I bought it and then I kitted it and then set it aside, and then last year I was just looking through my stash, and in the beginning of the chart, Barb and Alma put on here that they love to start Christmas samplers the day after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's, when the tree is still up and you have all of the busyness over with, but you have still the festive feeling. And so I'm like, I read that and I'm like, that's right, I need to get this started. So that's what I did. And then once January 1st rolls around, then I'm done and I don't want to work on it anymore. But I love, love, love this. And like I said, I've restarted filming about 3 or 4 different times, so I don't remember if I said that in this video or not, but there's a series of these. There's 4 charts total now that are Christmas samplers by Blackbird Designs, and the 4th one is just getting released. And I have pre-ordered it, but I have the other 2 charts and would like to have them all stitched on my wall near my Christmas tree. I just love their style and their color palette. The thing I adore about Blackbird Designs is I would never pick their colors. My eye would just not naturally pick them to stitch them with or kit something up. But I love, love, love everything that they have designed because of their color palette. They're just geniuses. And then a bunch of you are working on this one right now. And I started this, I think, 2 years ago. And it is the Christmas Quaker. I don't think that's what it's called. Let me grab it so I don't misspeak. You guys are all probably yelling at me. Christmas Garden. Celeste, my good friend Celeste, is working on this right now. Elizabeth with Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch are both working on this. I believe Tina For the Love of Stitches is working on it. I started it 2 years ago, and I set it down because I was originally worried that I didn't have enough border. So this is as far as I've got. And I think that's about 1.5 inches right there. I'm stitching this on 28 count Fog by Picture This Plus. And I love the colors. I'm using the called for colors, the It's Endive, Heirloom Gold, Fool's Gold, and Calico Kitty. And the two that are very variegated are Fool's Gold and Calico Kitty. And I, along with all of you, when I first kitted it up, I was like, oh wow. So Calico Kitty starts out a beautiful red burgundy color, and then it almost goes to a tan. Let me pick out a tan color. And so it gave me pause at first when I first started stitching. And then the same with Fool's Gold. It goes from gold to silver. But, like I said, Blackbird Designs ladies, Barb and Alma, are geniuses. And who am I to question them? So I kitted it and started stitching it with all the called for. And then I used to be a big 28 count stitcher and loved stitching with 2 threads. This 2 years ago was about when I started falling in love with higher count linens and stitching with 1 thread. And I just set this aside because of that. But I was watching Michelle with Farm Girl, and she was talking about how she doesn't like to stitch on 32 count with 2 strands. I think it was her that said this. But she likes 2 strands over 28 and then 1 strand up from there. And I agree with her. So I picked this up the other day, and I just put in a couple stitches to revisit it and, you know, pet it and what, you know, all the things that we do. And I have re-fallen in love with this. So I really want to get back to this. I love stitching with 2 strands over 28 count. It doesn't bother me at all. But for some reason, 32 count bothers me. I had started Anniversaries of the Heart in January on 32 count with 2 strands, and I didn't like it. And whenever I do stitch with 2 strands, I feel like my stitching looks very sloppy, and I don't seem to have that issue with 2 strands over 28. So I figured that out about myself, so now I can go forward in life, right? The mystery has been solved. But I want to get back to this. I am loving seeing everybody else's that is working on this, and it is just a classic, gorgeous piece. Everyone's color changes on it are absolutely stunning. So I'm excited to get back to that. It refueled my desire. I probably haven't even worked on it for 2 years because of it, but it has definitely refueled my desire to work on it. And then my last 2 whips are going to be the same. Well, this next one is kind of the same story. It's on 28 count, and I didn't think I liked stitching on it anymore because I didn't like 2 strands, but now that I have figured out that I like it, I'm going to get back to this because it is absolutely darling. This is by Hands On Design. It's in the Keepsake 2018 cross stitch calendar. This is what it looks like. And she's come out with an autumn one and now a winter one. So these are so cute. I want to stitch the others once I get this done. This is stitched on 28 count slate by hand-dyed by Stephanie. So I'd like to get that one done. This one can be out for all of winter, so that is a good one too. I enjoy winter stitches because you can keep them out a little bit longer. When I decorate for fall, I decorate with pumpkins, and I don't decorate for Halloween. I decorate for fall, and it stays up from the end of August, 1st of September until I put up my Christmas decorations. And so that's what I really like about like snowmen and Christmas stitching, is I can leave it up through February or March or April here in good old Utah. I'm kidding. My last project, I don't know what I want to do with it. I thought I would ask you your opinion. This one is Holiday Quaker by Lila's Studio. And I had the idea, sorry for the glare, I had the idea when I bought it. I couldn't find the called for dapple, but I also didn't love the blue background for it. And I thought, oh, those Quakers, they kind of look like frosting to me. I don't know why, but I just had like a gingerbread vibe. So I ordered a piece of 36 count gingerbread by Picture This Plus. And oh, I just thought I was so smart. But I really don't love this project. It has given me fits ever since I started it. I have changed a bunch of the colors because the colors looked horrible on this brown. One being this yellow. It looks horrible. I'm gonna have to replace that. The red is Schoolhouse Red. I substituted that. The green is the called for green. But I just wanted it to look like frosted gingerbread cookies. And I still like the idea, but I don't know if I'm going to finish this project. I might just finish stitching, you know, the motifs that I've got here and add a little bit more and then maybe make it into a small. I'm not sure, but I was talking with Lori about it the other day and telling her my woes with this project. And I told her, well, you know, there's pink frosting in cookies, so I'm thinking about adding pink. And I had kitted it with a darker pink, and she goes, no, do a lighter pink. So like this could replace the angel. Angels can be pink, right? And that does look much better on that linen. So I don't know, if you don't love something, you're not going to finish it, right? I just know myself. So I might just make this into a small. I'll let you know what I do. But I love Quakers, and I think in the year 2021, I would like to make, to stitch a Quaker, either all in black or red, like more of just a year-round classic Quaker. So that is Holiday Quaker by Lila's Studio. And then that is everything as far as my whips and all of my UFOs. The things that I would like to work on in my upcoming plans are, I would really like to, and I've told you this before, but I would love to have these stockings stitched for every month of the year. And I told you that in the fall, and I never even started. But I have all of them kitted up with linen, and mostly I'll stitch them in DMCs. But I'd really like to stitch these. I have this stocking on the front I bought at a Save Your Stitches. I can't remember where I found it, but I do have that one. Then there's this great pattern. It's Crowning of the Tree. And this just has one in it. And then there's Thanksgiving, or there's November, which has the turkey. And then it has those two cute ones on the back. So I really would like to get to these. I keep saying that, and I just need to do it. Like I said, little projects sometimes are my hardest ones to start, and I don't know. I make it a lot harder than it is. I bought some awesome haul to show you. And this first one is all of Susie Reno and Laura, who is from Laura the Serial Starter, and Heidi Cran, Stitching 1/2. They were all talking about this sampler. And it is Grace Bridges sampler by Stacey Nash. I ordered this from Jen Stitching Niche. And so if you're looking for it, she might still have some available. But I love a Mustard House, that and those peacocks. It's just a fabulous sampler. I don't know when I'm going to start it, but I had to at least put it in buy it and put it in my stash. And then my next purchase, I've had this actually for a while. I think I got this right after my last Flosstube. Early Christmas Morning by Blackbird Designs. Liz from Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch just finished hers and showed it on her last Flosstube. It's absolutely stunning. I really want to get this. This might put me in the Christmas stitching mood. Love it. And then I ordered this. George Decorates for Martha. I've wanted this ever since it came out at a retreat. Dying to Stitch retreat, I believe. So I want to get this kitted up so I can start it probably in the summer to have it done for fall. And then my last purchase was, I ordered the chart from Tingey, who is Victorian Rose Needle Arts, and it came with a lovely card and some tea. Thank you, Tingey. I ordered the chart from Tingey, and then the more that Brenda and Carol showed it, I had to kit it because I want to stitch this. I think that it will be my November project next year. But I ordered the kit from Country Samplers and it came this week with some 36 count parchment and all the called for threads, or their kitted threads at Country Sampler. And they're just beautiful on that linen. I've seen a few other people start this on Instagram, and it just is absolutely, it's just a beautiful sampler. So that will be, and I have it in my project bag for fall. So it's all kitted and ready to go. And those are my favorite kind, because then you can just start it on a Friday night at midnight if the desire comes over you, right? There's nothing more takes the wind out of your sails more than if you, oh, I want to stitch that, but then I have to go and try and see if I have all the flosses, and in this pandemic you might not have it, and then you're sunk. So I love to have things kitted for when I want to get them started. And then I think I showed this last time that I had purchased this, and I was going to start it with my good friend Celeste, with Celeste Creates. And all of you, because we're all just gaga over this release of Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais of With Thy Needle and Thread. But I've had one issue after another, I tell you. So when I did my last video, I showed you that I was going to try and stitch it maybe on like Rook or a few other linens that I had just in my stash. And then I found that I actually did have the called for dirty linen. And so I started it, but the called for, let me grab my threads. The called for Oscar is kind of a limey green, and it just blended right in. It did not show up at all, and that is like the border vine. So I unpicked it, and then I restarted it on like 3 or 4 different linens. I started it on Tin Roof. I started on the Rook, another gray linen that I had from a Victorian motto. And everything didn't work out. So I went back to this dirty linen, and I just pulled some threads out of my stash that might work. And I restarted it. But I'm still not loving it. And I didn't know what to do, so it just took the wind out of my sails. I didn't, you know, stitch any further. And then I just happened to notice that Kitten Stitcher had some 36 count Brenda's Brew, which is the new called for. And I think she's out now. It sold out very quickly, but it came yesterday, and I ordered it like, I think I ordered it like November 20th, or it was before Thanksgiving. I ordered it, and it got lost in the mail. It was like, it never showed that it even left the post office once they received it. But, and it's still like, if you track it, it doesn't show it's been delivered, but it arrived yesterday. And so, look at that Oscar. It finally pops. So I think I'm going to restart it on the Brenda's Brew. And I'm so excited because that really, it was a conundrum of what to do. But I think I finally figured it out. And I will use the dirty linen for another project because I really do like that linen. Speaking of Winter Rose Manor, I had a very sweet viewer, Kim with Crazy for Horses on Instagram, messaged me and asked me if I had the chart, which I did, but she had 3 extras in her stash to share, and she wanted to send them to me so that I could do a giveaway for you all. And so she kindly sent them. So I have 3 of these charts to give away. In your comment below, just say Winter Rose Manor, and I will draw that next time. and please be a viewer, a subscriber, and I'll do that next time. There's 3, so I'll have 3 winners for that. Thank you so much, Kim. That was so generous and thoughtful for you to share those with us, and I know that you'll make 3 people very happy. That was so kind. She also sent along these darling towels for me, and I have been itching to unwrap these and use them, but I wanted to show them to you first. And then it came with some candy canes. My daughter's already snagged one, and then some measuring spoons, and I love these so much. They'll definitely get used, but I love that they're black. So thank you so much, Kim. That was so sweet, and definitely will make a lot of people very happy. Speaking of giveaways, last time I had 3 patterns to give away courtesy from Fat Quarter Shop, and I drew the names before I started the video. And the first one is Hey Pumpkin, and that was won by Gail Lynch, and I've commented on your comment. If you will email me your address, I'll get that out to you. And then the Prim Stitch series by Lori Holt. This is Kindness and Generosity, won by Patsy Kremer. And the last one is the Prim and Proper book, and that is Michelle Hardy. So if you ladies will email me your addresses, I'll get them out in the mail. Thank you so much. And I wanted to share with you a couple plans I have for the month of December and January 1st. The first one is actually my January 1st. And I was texting with Celeste, and she showed that she had bought the Smith Sampler by Scarlett House. And I said, oh my heck, I just bought that. And it just came that week after she messaged me. Or it came the week before she messaged me. Anyway, she goes, well, I really want to stitch this. And I said, I'll stitch it with you. I love this pattern so much. And not that I need any new starts, because you know, all the BAPs. But we are going to start this on January 1st. And we'd love it if you want to join us. We'd love to have you join with us. I've kitted mine with a piece of vintage autumn gold. It's 36 count. It's very dark. The chart calls for either 36 count or 46 count vintage autumn gold, but that is a lighter dye lot than the 36 by a significant amount. Or I think it calls for vintage meadow rue, but I don't have that in my stash. I did have this, and so then I pulled the colors, and they look great on it. And so, oh, they're a mess. I haven't put them on a floss ring yet. Okay, I'm gonna just try to. But all the colors, they show up on the linen really well. So I think that I'm going to use the vintage autumn gold and just be daring. The green is the only one that I kind of have a little bit of pause about, but I think it'll be okay. So I kitted this up with all the called for silks, and I'm excited to start that on January 1st. The hashtag that we're going to use, I'll link below so that you can join in on the fun if you would like. And then my Christmas start. I had a hard time deciding what I wanted to do because I had promised Haley that I wanted to do a Christmas start, and her very, very favorite sampler that she's ever seen, you know, arrive at the house is Rachel House by Scarlett House. Rachel House, 1856. And so about a month ago, I told her, I will start this for you, and I'm going to have it as my Christmas Day or Christmas Eve start. And then Lori, when she was showing her video, she said that she's going to start A Savior's Praise on Christmas. So I had FOMO for a minute there, but I promised Haley, so I'm going to restart this on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. They're in Flossaway bags because they're the silks, but I've kitted it with all the called for silks on a piece of 36 count Legacy that I found in my stash that isn't a green hue. It has, you know, it looks like the old dye lots for Legacy. And thanks to Brenda and Carol for helping me with my dye lot issues on Legacy. But I had started this sampler a couple years ago on 40 count, and my piece of linen was super, super, super green, and I was just struggling with it. And so I just set it aside, and I knew that I wanted to restart it. So I'm gonna start that one on Christmas, and then I'm gonna start Smith Sampler on January 1st. So there's my future plans. I have a little bit of Happy Mail and some quilts to share with you. So if that's not your thing, I'll see you next time, and I will try not to make it a 6-week duration this next time. Thanks, everyone. This next and last segment, will be all about quilting and Happy Mail. I have been a busy bee, and I wanted to show you what I've been up to and also some previous quilts. But I have been doing the Prim and Proper Sew Along, hosted by Fat Quarter Shop, and the quilt is by Lori Holt of Be in My Bonnet. And I am doing mine in the kitted Prim fabric by Lori. And we started out the first week doing the flowers, and then the second and third week were the leaf blocks. And then this last week was the pot, the vintage vase. So here is my progress so far. I got some of my cross stitch blocks done, so I sewed this segment together. But here is my progress so far. Flowers. I love those cross stitch blocks. And then the vintage vase. So next, this coming week, we will be finishing up the cross stitch blocks, and then we'll be on to these corner blocks, and they are so fun. This is it's an easy quilt to make. I wouldn't say it's beginner friendly, but Lori's instructions, she could probably make a quilt of a squirrel riding a bicycle while typing and sewing on a machine on each hand, and you could even make it understandable. Did you just have that visual? But she always has the easiest instructions, and everything is very easy to understand. So it's always a pleasure to sew a Lori quilt, because I know I'm going to have a great time doing it, and I'm going to understand it all. I know I say that every time, but it really is true. Her instructions are impeccable, and it just makes the process so much more enjoyable when you can actually understand the person's instructions, and she does it well. So I have jumped ahead on my sewing, and I have all of my cross stitch blocks done. So I'm ready to do the corner blocks next, which are these. So much fun. Thank you, Lori and Fat Quarter Shop. This is a fun sew along. Okay, I wanted to show you some previous finishes. This quilt behind me that's up on the wall, it is out of the book Winter Wonderland by Sherry Falls. And the quilt behind me, let me just grab it really quick. It's called Fresh Cut Pines. So it was a kit that was offered, so I used all the called for fabrics, and then I quilted it on my sewing machine. I have an embroidery attachment, and you just quilt it in sections. So I quilted this by myself, and I just love that. I put it up every year there. It's one of my favorites. And then I sewed another quilt out of this book. I'm just trying to find this is a great book to have in your collection. It has a total of 12 quilts in it. It is called Sugar Plum's Quilt. And I didn't have the called for fabrics. I just went through my stash and I found a solid red that didn't have, I just had a solid red. And then I just went and found aquas and greens. And they're not even Christmas fabrics. I think this flowery fabric is a Bonnie and Camille. Yep, the green is as well. I think this next one, the blue, is a Tasha Noel by Riley Blake. And so then this one, I did have some Christmas fabrics. But it's a great chart to not have to use Christmas fabrics because it's not really necessary. I think that the blocks, like this isn't a Christmas fabric. But I just love this quilt. And I also quilted this on my machine with my embroidery attachment. And then it just has mints on the back, Christmas mints. So that is such a fun Christmas quilt. I pull it out every year and I just set it on my chair in my sewing room. And then I have some happy mail I wanted to share with you. But first I wanted to show you some pillows off of Haley's bed. Let me go grab them. Okay, I couldn't grab the Christmas quilt because it has a Haley and a Gus cuddling on it. And I didn't have the heart to rip it out from under them. But I brought her pillows out to show you. But the beginning of every holiday Christmas season, Haley, that's the very first thing that she is so excited to go and pull out, is to decorate her room. And I will insert a picture of her bed right here. But I finished her quilt and I don't remember the name of the pattern. I made it probably 4 or 5 years ago. But it is a free pattern off of Riley Blake's website. I don't know the name. If I find it, I will link it below. But after I got done with the quilt itself, I just wanted to make her some shams for her bed to kind of bring everything together. And so I used the fabric that I made the quilt with, and I just made a Dresden flower and made a pillow. So that's the middle pillow. And it has this darling Santa Claus workshop fabric from Riley Blake. I think that's what it was called, the Santa's Workshop. And then on my embroidery machine, I embroidered her these pillows, and I didn't follow a pattern. I bought the embroidery pattern itself off of Etsy, downloaded it, embroidered this part, and then I just sewed strips to make it into a sham. So that's Mrs. Claus, and they're big, but she has a full bed, so full-size bed, so it works great. And then here is Santa. So again, I just embroidered it, and then I did the same exact pattern. I just sewed strips together and made it into an envelope back with matching fabrics from her bed. So this is one of our very favorite Christmas finishes around our house. And I was the recipient of some amazing, generous Happy Mail. And a couple things are already gone. A friend of mine sent me some pistachios, and she sent me this great big box, and they're gone. My husband just keeps sneaking them to work, and but Dana, who is Dana Quilts on Instagram, she sent me a great big box of pistachios that her family grows, and they were the best pistachios I've ever had in my life. Thank you so much. I ended up, the very last bag, I ended up hiding them in my sewing room so that he wouldn't take them to work. I think him and his buddies would just sit and eat them, and so they went fast. But I have had a couple happy mail the last couple weeks that have just left me speechless, and I'm not even quite sure what to say. But the first one, this one came this week, and it came on the perfect day. I was having the worst day, and this came in the mail from Cindy, who is Cindy Stitches, and it came in the most darling wrapped box. It came with some linen. I already have it put in a kit for a small I'm going to make, but look how beautifully finished that is. I think this is a Prairie Schooler Santa. This is my very first Prairie Schooler Santa, and it has the cording on the sides, and then the darling fabric on the back, and then a cute little charm on it that says made with love. I bawled when I opened this up. I love it so much. It's perfectly stitched and finished, and just the most thoughtful gift. Thank you so much, Cindy. I will treasure it. And I have a little Christmas tree in my sewing room, and I will have this in here. I just love it so much. I will treasure that. And then a couple weeks ago, Daleen, who is here on Flosstube and Instagram under So Grateful, SEW Grateful. I'm sure you all know her. And whenever I'm having a bad day or just need a little bit of light, I turn on her Flosstube because she is always so uplifting and happy. And I was the lucky recipient of her generosity, and she sent me the most beautiful project bag. Darling little zipper pull of sewing ladies, or not sewing ladies, oh, I'm gonna lose my words. The old patterns, the vintage patterns that have the ladies on them. Love this. So I'm gonna put, my goal for next year is to always have a small going, and I'm gonna put my smalls in this. I love it. Thank you so much, Daleen. She sent the most beautiful card. She also sent a thread ring. Everything was wrapped and just finished so perfectly. Like, just lots of little details. And I'm not, I need to get better about when I send gifts, about my wrapping and everything. She sent a little bit of extra fabric wrapped in the ribbon. Everything was, every little detail was just so darling, and it just totally made my day. So thank you so much, Daleen. I hope that all of you are having a great holiday season, no matter what you celebrate, and that 2020 ends fast, and hoping for a better 2021. I appreciate all of you coming along for this journey with me this year. It's been so fun to make stitchy friends. I truly appreciate all of you and the friendships and the support and the kind comments. And have a happy new year. I will be back the very beginning of 2021 to share with you what I've accomplished in December, and also my plans for next year. Happy holidays.